6.2, trinomial factoring, okay? Trinomial has how many terms? What does tri mean? Three, good. Okay, a trinomial has 3 terms. So, in the last section, we learned the reason, we learned that the reason we learn how to factor is to be able to solve polynomial equations, okay? And the ones we dealt with in the last section, 6.1, had 4 terms, okay? And just like Carson said, we are now dealing with when we have 3 terms. This is what we're going to use. Factoring by trinomial, also known as what we're going to call the X method. It shouldn't be too bad. It won't be too bad. Okay, we're actually going to change up some of these steps because I printed out the wrong notes. Yeah, it's great. It's Monday. Okay, so complete the following example as we go through the following steps. Okay, so this is the example that we're working with right here. The first couple steps are going to apply. Okay, first things first, check. Is there a GCF or a common variable, which technically is still a GCF? Okay, we always check for a GCF first before you do anything else. So looking at our example that I just squiggly lined, first just the coefficients. Do 3, 16, and 5 have anything in common?
Nope.
No. Do all 3 of those terms have a common variable? No. Okay, so this first step actually doesn't apply to us, but we checked for it. So great job. We get a sticker. Okay. Step 2, you're going to take the first term times the last term. And when we say term here, we actually just mean coefficient, okay? So if I look, my first coefficient is 3. Do we all see that?
Yeah.
Leading coefficient times my last coefficient, which is 5. What is 3 times 5?
15.
Woohoo!
Oh, I thought I just got that.
Awesome.
Let us say well.
Okay. Then we want to find 2 numbers that will multiply to give us that number, but add to give us the middle term. And I want you to just cross off this table because it's a little bit more confusing. And I want you to draw a giant X. Got it? Cool. So here's what goes on the top of the X. The first term times the last term, which we said was 15, right? Put it up there. Okay. Now what I need is my very middle coefficient, which is what? What's the sign in front of the 16?
Negative.
Negative 16. Cool. So it's going to be a negative 16. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Shut up.
Now, here is the thing. Here's the kicker. This is the most important part of today. You need to find 2 numbers to go on the sides here, okay? 2 numbers that will multiply to give you 15, but add to give you negative 16. Okay? And one thing I want you to do is out to the side, this little X, just as a mental note, I like to do this. M over A, okay? Multiply to give me that top number, add to give me this bottom number. So I want you to just start thinking about the factors of 15. What times what will equal 15?
3 times 5.
3 times 5. Okay, so let's put that here. Okay, will 3 plus 5 equal negative 16?
No.
What about like negative 3 and negative 5? No, it won't. Okay, so that one's not going to work. Erase and try again. What are some other multiples of 15 or factors of 15? What about itself?
Negative 1 and negative.
Will 15 go into 15?
Yeah.
1 and 15? 1 times 15 is 15?
Yeah.
Is 15 plus 1 equal negative 16?
No.
No? But if I make them both negative, good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trevor got it. Good deal.
Times 1 and add the other one.
What? Multiply to get to the top, add to give you the bottom. You with me?
That's why there's an M and an A right there.
Yep, the M and the A. You don't have to draw that every time, but just a mental note. M over A. You with me? You good? You good? Does it matter? Could I have put the -1 on this side and the -15 on this side?
Yes.
Yes, you could have. Okay, and I'll show you why.
Could have.
Could have. Yes. Are you correcting my grammar?
No.
Don't. Okay,
I wanted to sound smart.
next page. So I'm going to go ahead and write my x back up here just because I don't want to have to flip back. So we had -1, -15, and -16. Okay. So now that we have this x, I don't need any of these other steps. Here's what I need. This is going to be step 4. Okay? Keep original first term and last term and use, let's reword that, and yeah, I guess we're going to say that. Use your 2 new numbers as your new middle terms.
Jeez.
Sorry, I could have made that simpler, but I did not. So that was step 4, and then somewhere on here, on step 5, just put factor by grouping. It's okay.
Yes.
Little English and math, it's not going to hurt you.
English sure needs math.
Okay. And then write small, but we're going to finish up this problem. So what was my original first term and my last term? Somebody flip back.
-3x squared.
And my last term?
+5?
Turn back and make sure this is right. +5? Okay. Was it a -3x squared or positive?
Positive.
It was positive? Okay.
Yeah.
And then my 2 new middle terms are going to be what my sides are. Okay, so that's going to be -1x and -15x. You with me?
Sure.
We're going to do examples. Now this is just a factor by grouping problem. Now this is just a factor by grouping problem. Okay?
Okay.
Which we just did that, and you guys said they were easy, right?
Yeah.
So first 2 terms, 3x squared minus 1x, plus sign. Second 2 terms. Three and 1 are just going to have a 1 in common. But what about x squared and x? X. When I pull that out, I'm left with 3x minus 1. And then I got -15x and 5. Those are going to have a -5 in common. And when I pull that out, I'm left with 3x minus 1. And my final answer?
X minus 5 and 3x minus 1.
Perfect. And that's it. That's how we factor a trinomial. So don't get confused by my mumbo jumbo of notes here, because we crossed off some things, but
What if, like,
we're drawing an x, multiply on the top, add to the bottom, 2 new middle terms, factor by grouping. Okay. Here in the big bold letters where it says always, always, always. This is super important, and you're going to hear me say it all the time. Always, always, always check for a GCF first. Because if you try to start the X method and you didn't pull out a GCF, it is not going to work. If there was a GCF. There won't always be one. But if there is one, got to make sure you take it out. Do you believe me?
Yeah. What does GCF
Thank you.
mean again?
Greatest common factor. Yep. Good question. Okay. Factor the following by the X method. Cool. We will start off. We will draw an X. On the top of my X, I need my first coefficient times my last term. So 1 times 16.
16.
Good. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Cool. In the bottom of my x, anybody remember what I put there?
16.
No.
10.
10, the middle term, right? Middle coefficient.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, the fun part. Two things that will multiply to 16, but add to 10. 8 and 2.
Oh, smart one.
Sometimes you gotta play around with the numbers, okay? Sometimes you won't always get it the first time. Use the calculator if you need to. Okay? So now, we keep our original first term, so we just had 1x squared. Our two new middle terms are what? Plus 8x and plus 2x. And I keep my last term, which was 16. And now I factor by grouping. So first two terms go together. Plus sign. Next two terms go together. Help me out. What do x squared and 8x have in common?
X.
Just x. Good. And what's going to be left?
X plus 8.
Good. What do 2x and 16 have in common? 2. And what's going to be left?
X plus 8.
Do my parentheses match on the insides?
Yes.
They do, so I did this right. And my final answer is going to be,
X plus 2 and X plus 8.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
And one thing too, after I factor this out, if I took out a GCF in the beginning, I would place it out front here. So like for instance, if I would have taken out a number, I would put that right here. Okay, but I didn't take out a number, so I don't need to worry about that. Does that make sense? Hopefully. We'll do one like that right now. Okay, we're gonna start off doing this one together. Always, always, always check for a greatest common factor. So we look at 8, negative 40, and 50. 2, yeah. Check, is there anything bigger than 2? No, there's not. Okay, but make sure you always check. Cool. So Braden said to take out a 2, so that's what we're going to do when we take that out. 8x squared divided by 2 is what?
4x
Yep, 4x
squared.
squared, because we didn't take out a variable. Negative 40x divided by 2. Negative 20x, good. And 50 divided by 2. No, it's funnier than 24? 25. Okay.
21.
Whatever. All right, so now the inside
So fun.
can be what? Factored with the X method. I want you to go ahead and try to factor that inside. Draw your X. Try to get the right sides. Okay, what did we put on the top of our X? 100, because our first coefficient times our last coefficient was 100. Good. What about the middle, or sorry, the bottom term?
Negative 20.
Negative 20, because that is our middle term. Good.
And
Two things that will multiply to 100, but add to negative 20.
negative 10 and negative 10.
Negative 10 and negative 10. Raise your hand if you got that. Okay, cool. If you didn't, make sure you keep on keeping on. Keep trying out numbers. Keep on it. Okay, cool. So now, we leave our GCF just out here chilling. Okay, don't worry about him. My first term was what? What I was factoring. 4x squared My two new middle terms.
Negative 10,
Negative 10x, negative 10x. And my last term, 25. Questions on that so far? Okay, the most important thing, that GCF, just leave it out there chilling. Okay, don't try to distribute that in there because it's already been factored out. It doesn't need to be factored again. Okay, so now we factor by grouping just the inside, leave the 2 out there. So my first two terms are 4x squared minus 10x, plus sign, next two terms. Okay, 4x squared and negative 10x. What do they have in common? 2x, and what's going to be left?
X
Close. 2x.
and 5, negative 5.
Good. And on the next set, what else? What do these have in common? Negative 5, good. And then we're left with 2x minus 5, which matches. We rewrite our outsides together, insides together. And what is my final answer for getting the GCF out front? Good. Cool. Done. Just like that. Questions? Feeling good? Okay. Let's do, I want you guys to do letter D. We'll skip C.
I'm already doing C.
You already did C? Darn. Overachiever.
Too bad I scratched.
Is there a GCF on this one?
No.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Yes.
What is it? 4. Yes, 4 goes into all of them. So when we pull that out, what's going to be left?
C squared
I already did it right.
You did it right?
minus 9C.
C minus 9 plus 1.
Yeah, but you didn't put your greatest common factor.
Okay, I am recording, so please keep your comments appropriate. Thank you. All right, X method.
Miss Bobby, why are you worried about it?
Timmy, what goes on the top of our X?
20.
20, good. What goes in the bottom?
Negative 9.
Negative 9. Two things that will multiply to give me 20 and add to give me negative 9. Okay,
Shush.
good. Unanimous. So we leave our GCF out here chilling. Then we do what?
Write something?
Yeah. What do we write?
It's C squared minus 5C minus 4C plus 1.
Thank you.
R minus 4C minus 5C.
Sorry. I was.
Recording, guys.
If anyone at home watches this video, I'm sorry. Okay.
Did you suspend Zach for that? That made me so uncomfortable.
Hey. All right. What do I do now, Carson?
C squared minus 5C plus parentheses negative 4C plus 20C.
Is there a C on that 20?
No.
No.
No, I didn't say it.
Oh,
It's okay. All right. Now what?
I'm gonna mean not to hit you in the nose.
Okay. C squared minus 5C.
Say it again.
Oh, C goes in.
Negative 4C and 20.
Negative 4.
Negative 4.
Okay. And my final answer.
C negative 4, C5 minus 5.
What's he missing?
The 4 in front.
The 4 in front. Don't forget the GCF. Okay, cool. Questions on that?
No.
No.
Are we feeling good?
Yes.
Cool.
Thanks for registering.
No.
Hey, I wasn't done writing that down.
All right, solving the equations. All right, so this is the exact same thing, except for when we get down to our two factors, we set them equal to 0, and we solve to get our two answers. Yes. Thank you.
No.
Okay. Looking at this first one. What do we do?
Put M into them, come on that.
X method.
Still?
Because it's in standard form. It's set equal to 0. Everything's on one side. What's going on the top? 2. What's going on the bottom?
3.
2 things that will multiply to 2, add to 3.
2 more.
Good. Keep our first term. Our 2 new middle terms are plus 2m and plus 1m. And we keep our last term set equal to 0. We now factor by grouping. 1 set of parentheses, plus sign, 2 sets of parentheses. The first set, just m, and what's left?
M plus 2.
In the second set, they just have a,
How'd you get rid of square?
They just have one.
because I took out an m, so there's only one m left.
Or they only have just a one.
Just a plus 1, so it still leaves m plus 2.
M plus 1, M plus 2.
M plus 1, m plus 2. You're catching on, Timmy? Good. And now what? What did we do? What did we do last class when we got down to this point? We had them set equal to 0. Then we could do what? Yep. Break them apart. Split them up. Good. So m plus 1 is 0, and m plus 2 is 0. And now we just solve to get our 2 answers.
-1 and M equals -2.
Yep, subtract 1, m equals -1. Subtract 2 on both sides, m is -2. These are my 2 answers. Word.
Don't move on yet. What's the
Okay. Okay, we're going to skip number 2. We're going to go on down to number 3. Is this in standard form?
No.
Meaning, is everything on one side by itself?
No.
No. What's wrong with it?
You gotta get the 0.
Get the 0 by itself. So how do I get 0 by itself?
Plus 36 over.
Yes, plus 36. Good. On both sides. So we end up with t squared equals
0.
0. Do we know how to X method that?
Yeah.
Do it. Ready, set, go. Let's get started. So what'd you do? Okay. Say that again.
X factor
Okay. What goes on top?
36.
What goes on bottom?
15.
Sides?
12 and 3.
Good. 12 times 3 is 36. 12 plus 3 is 15. Sweet. Now what?
You gotta bring them down, so t squared plus 12t plus 3t equals 36 equals 0.
Now what?
Break it down.
Break it down.
So t squared plus 12. And then 3t plus 36.
Okay.
And then t goes into that first one. So it's t plus 12. And then the second one, 3 goes into both of them. So that's just t plus 6. 12, I mean. Not 6.
Okay. And my final answer
T
before I...
plus 3 and t plus 1.
And when I break that apart and set both equal to 0, what are my 2 answers going to be?
Oh my gosh, good job.
Good. Any questions on that?
No.
Raise your hand if you got that one completely. Cool. Raise your hand if you were super close.
Carson, maybe raise your hand or something.
Okay.
I finished problem. Okay.
All right. Let's go ahead and... I don't want to do the word problem.
Oh.
Yep, I agree. Let's go to lunch. Let's be done for today. You do have Delta Math, and you do have a worksheet that you have to do all the problems on. Thank you.